My name's Erica Gray. I came over here from Henrico, Virginia. I have been following mostly North Anna and its license, and have not had too many opportunities to come over here to Surrey. Of course, it piqued my attention when I saw that Surrey is actually going forward with its subsequent license first before North Anna, which they are in the queue. Following behind, I guess I have to mention from the last commenter, is if nuclear fuel could actually jump into the reactors by themselves, it would be carbon-free. But actually, the whole process of the nuclear fuel chain is extensively carbon intensive and highly toxic. And another 20 years added on to this last license renewal will give us many more metric tons of highly radioactive fuel, spent fuel that will be radioactive and toxic for eternity, which there really is no solution. So I had to add that. As it goes forward with this license renewal, I have many questions, and I guess we can start with, first of all, I was told that Dominion expects, or the NRC expects, that after 18 months of review, they will get this license renewal. 18 months is a short period of time to review thousands of documents if this is to be a thorough investigation or review, or whatever you want to call it. I guess for the most part, the goal is generic, but I think we need to look at site-specific. When it comes to safety, I'm sure that the NRC, as well as Dominion, wants to run safe plans. But I wanted to mention that also Surrey happens to be one of the plants that's had the most nuclear accidents and fatalities. There's been 9 people who have died at Surrey, more than any other commercial nuclear facility. In 1972, 2 men were killed when a steam valve malfunctioned. In October of '83, a different steam pipe burst, killing 1 worker and severely injuring another. In 1984, 2 men were electrocuted. In 1986, 4 were killed when 30,000 gallons of superheated water in Unit 2 ruptured. Since Surrey opened in 1973, the walls of the pipes, which is expected to last for 40 years life of the reactor, have in some spots gone from 1/2 inch thick to thinner than a credit card. And no one knows why. Sorry, I've got lots of miscellaneous notes. Test on corresponding pipes at Surrey on the other unit reveals similar erosion. Clearly, as this plant gets older, we need to become more vigilant. So that's specifically talking about just the past. I mean, this reactor, we're already into the first license renewal by 7 years. From looking through the documents, there's still a lot of commitments that I'm not even sure have been met for the first license renewal, and we're already 7 years in. The EMDA report, the Expanded Materials Degradation Assessment, basically has also instructed licensees in order they must resolve issues related to reactor pressure, vessel embrittlement, irradiation, assisted stress corrosion, cracking of reactor internals, on and on. I don't think that if we're just going to be looking at the goal as a generic, it's got to be more specific on Surrey, and tests need to be performed, not just commitments before we move forward.
Erica, can I suggest that what we do is give you an opportunity to speak one more time later on after other people have spoken, and give you a chance to look through your notes a little bit more. I really think it's important for you to speak, because we don't have very many people here that are speaking from a non-pro-nuclear stance. So I'd like to give you a chance to, sit down, go over your notes a little bit and arrange your thoughts a little.
All the maintenance reports, the replacement parts, items that actually, and the event reports, because there's always lots of those, but a lot of the, those don't actually make events because they get shifted over into a different category, which is a corrective action plans. So the public really doesn't get to see those. We need real examinations. All pertinent information from the manufacturers should be looked at, because in 2016, with the whole problem with Crusoe Forge, when there was falsifying the documentation, we know that both North Anna and Surrey have had different components from those different companies. All the data should be compiled. All the exemptions, relief requests, amendments. There's been so many over the years. There's no way you can go off with just a regular Gall generic report, because when the reactor started up 47 years ago, it had requirements, it had codes, and a lot of that has changed over time. There's been lots of amendments and changes. So for a thorough investigation, all that needs to be looked at. Also, when it comes to all the differences in fuels, all the fuel burnouts have changed over the years. I mean, all the chemistry in the reactors, I mean, all that needs to be looked at, and it can't just be generic. And so I think, for the most part, it can't just be generic. It's going to have to be more thorough. We're only 7 years into the first, and I don't see where there's going to be a difference between our first license renewal and then a subsequent license renewal. We can't just take the papers and copy and paste and put them over. We actually need to have the test. And one last thought here. When I talk about exemptions and reliefs, Dominion doesn't plan on actually looking at the pressure reactor vessel. Instead of when they were supposed to do it in 2013-14, they're not going to do it until 2022, 2023. Now, how are we going to assess that this plant is safe if we don't actually have to do the inspections, if we put off these inspections until after they get the license? That's ridiculous.
Okay, thank you, Erica.
I'm not really sure how you can separate out environmental and safety, particularly, but I just wanted to mention to this lady here, I don't believe that Dominion would want their employees to be hurt. I believe the NRC wants everybody to be safe. That was not my point. I was simply mentioning what has happened at Surrey over time and the degradation of the plant because of aging. And basically the reason why this is all being looked at is because of the aging issue. This plant's been around for a long time, so some of this aging, they know the embrittlement's taking place. This has nothing to do with the employees not doing a good job or Dominion trying to be careful, but in particular the pressure reactor vessel is old and the cracking's taking place, and they really don't know how to look at it. The specimens that they put in the reactor were 8 when they started. By the time it's over, they might have 1. I don't know. They need to come up with new methodology and new ways to be able to check for safety. Otherwise, we're riding in the dark. There's no way to really look at those parts. In a reactor vessel, you can't just replace. You can't climb inside and fix it. So I have nothing against the employees. I'm glad they're good neighbors here. My problem is we can't just go by generic goal. We have to go by the numbers, and Dominion shouldn't be allowed to get this extension without actually having to do the reviews, the inspections. That needs to be done. And I don't see how you can separate out that to the environmental, because if we have a through-wall crack, it will become an environmental issue very quickly. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for
Vacation. I agree with what you were saying about the elbows and whatnot, but what I'm talking about embrittlement of the reactor itself, the part that's not replaceable.
It's a non-starter.
Might be a non-starter, but these guys know the documents I'm talking about. I attend the other meetings. I'm talking about the documents I'm coming from are not just off the internet. I attend the meeting. Roger is very familiar with me. I'm in contact. I'm not reading all stuff off the internet, sir. I am actually reading documents from Dominion and from the NRC, and have been involved for many years So I'm not just making up
You
stuff.
work in the industry.
No, I do not work in the industry, and I don't get paid for what I do either. This is simply a hobby of mine as it goes for energy. I do want clean, safe energy, but I'm saying that the biggest issue I have with Surrey as well as North Anna is we need a program to make sure these reactors are safe because of the aging problems that the industry is very familiar with, and the NRC. That's why they're looking at these issues of embrittlement and the other erosion issues. That's all I have to say.